Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Schwa Mill, where every single Saturday at this time we help you to craft your accent in American English pronunciation to help you achieve a more natural sound every time you talk. My name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath, which is one of the four key ingredients for a natural American English accent. And the way this show works is that you can send in your own pronunciation files today, tomorrow, any single day of the week. But this is the show where we actually take a look at them and give you some feedback. I want to walk you through that process for sending in your own pronunciation file in case that's something that you're interested in doing today, sometime in the future. So that way we can listen to you another episode. So give me a second. I'm going to share my screen with you and kind of just walk you through the steps of how this works. We try to keep it relatively simple as possible. So first things first is that what you're going to see is that we have a Google document. This Google document is the same one we use every single week. You can find it in the comments. You can find it in the chat box. You can find it in the video description, things like that. Oh, you can actually find it in the comments. I'm going to post it right now so that way you'll see it. Okay. So this is where you can send in your own pronunciation file. So we'll be able to hear you, give you feedback, things like that. And the way this works, once you go to the document, you're going to look at the top and it says directions. Choose one of the options below. Visit vocaroo.com. What is vocaroo.com? Vocaroo.com looks a little something like this. Okay. And the only difference is the first time you log in, you might see a big red record button there. You're going to press that record button, and that's going to start saving your audio. When you finish, you press it again. You're going to see an option that says save. You're going to click save. It's then going to give you this link. You can take this link and put it right into our documents, and you're done. That's all you need to do for us to be able to listen to you and give you some suggestions and things like that. Something that we are very much looking forward to doing because that's all that we are about. And if you do find this helpful, one of the things we'll be discussing later on is about some opportunities to continue practicing your pronunciation throughout the week. Because let's be honest, just giving 5 or 10 minutes of feedback once a week on a Saturday is not going to have a massive impact on your pronunciation. Just a note on that. I want to say some quick hellos to people. Edward has been waiting very patiently from the beginning. Hello to Edward. Good to see you. Hello also to Shoke. Thanks for stopping by. Edward's saying hey to Shoke, which is cool. Oh my gosh, look at this. Look who is here. Rumeza's in the house. Good to see you, Rumeza. Welcome back. Our resident current Canadian, which is cool. Who else is here? Reporting in from Brazil, we have Sita. Good to see you. Thanks for making time to stop by today. Good to see you again. And also, who else is here? Emmanuel is here, and everyone's saying hey to each other, which is great. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so I think that kind of wraps up all of our basics in terms of how the stream works. If you're someone who's here and hasn't said hello, please do. We're friendly, we don't bite too hard. I do want to just do a quick mention that during the stream today, we're going to be referencing a lot of key concepts that are going to help with your pronunciation. If these are new for you, specifically the concepts we're going to be talking about are called placement, breath, pitch, and trying to weaken your consonant sounds and trying to strengthen your vowel sounds. If these are things you're like, what is placement? What is pitch? How does that even have anything to do with English? I strongly encourage you to go to our website. You can see it. There it is. I was in trouble. There it is. If you go to fluentamerican.com, you're going to see we have a free video course that's going to walk you through all of those basics. It's going to make all of the feedback I give today much more meaningful because if I say, hey, your placement's high, but you don't know what placement is, well, that's going to make things difficult, right? Because the feedback I'm going to give you is not like any feedback you're going to get from other pronunciation channels. These are things that are going to have a pretty big impact on your pronunciation relatively quickly if you're able to understand the concepts. So I strongly encourage you to go to fluentamerican.com, get that free video course because it's going to make all the feedback I give today much more meaningful to you. Trying to think, are there other things today that I have not mentioned yet? Oh, hello, Jeff. Oh, hello, Jeff. It's good to see you. I think that kind of wraps up everything. If you guys have a specific question or thing that I have forgotten to say, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, we're just going to get right into the feedback. Oh, let me add myself there, right? Again, it's not little, it's more little.
The G host was class.
Are you feeling that here, here, or here? You share my screen and sound. That would be very helpful if I did both. All right, so you guys are going to be able to see what I see, hear what I hear. If that's cool, say cool. And give that a second to load. There we go. So we're going to take a look at the feedback files for everybody. Okay. As Emmanuel mentions, the big four. Yes. Big four, the four fundamentals, all those things. Super, super impactful placement, breath, pitch, and weakening your vowel sounds. All keys for that natural sound that you're probably looking for if you're here. All right. So I'm going to just start from this file right here. Ooh, we got a big one. It's a big one. So let's just kind of play us once, get an idea of what they're doing, and then we'll jump into some feedback.
My people remember me if the horses come. And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
I feel like just cut off. Hang on. Hasn't done that before. But let's get the text. This is what we are about to hear.
They shame my color black out of ignorance. And had it not been the blackness of the night, the dawn wouldn't have come. عنترة بن شداد.
I feel like I missed the last part. Let me play that last part just to see if it was included or not.
عنترة بن شداد.
Okay, there's not. Okay, cool. Thanks, Shokes, on this file. Let's take a listen again to the beginning.
My people remember me if the horses come.
Okay, just pause there. I think Jonas sounds pretty good so far. I don't know, Shoki, you can let me know. Are you shadowing something? Is this based on a model, or is this just you reading the text?
My people remember me.
I think the only thing that was slightly unexpected for me was I was expecting remember to get the stress, not. I think you're stressing people.
My people remember me.
My people will remember me. So you are kind of stressing remember, but the heavier stress is probably on people. My people will remember me versus my people will remember me. But that's not to say that that's the only way you could do this. There's always a million different possibilities when it comes to stress, so I don't have an issue with that. That's perfectly fine. Besides that, moving on.
Remember me if the horses come. And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
Okay, and in the dark night, the full moon is missing. And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
Okay. I do think you could have, this could have just been the audio, but it sounds like the breath kind of cuts out on missing.
And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
Yes, I would have extended the breath a little bit. Missing. It said missing. Just slightly extending the breath a little bit. Shok says they are not shadowing. Okay, keeping that in mind.
And in the dark night.
You have an opportunity for some reductions here. It's like and in the dark night, and in the dark night. Do you hear that? And in the dark night. So that just is another way you could reduce that. And in the dark, and in the dark. And what that does is just kind of helps you keep the breath flowing a little bit. But that's not to say that the way you're doing it is wrong. The way you're doing it works as well. Just another opportunity there.
And in the dark night, the full moon is missing. They shame my color black.
Color. I thought it sounded okay, but the L is slightly blocking off
Full
breath.
moon is missing. They shame my color black.
Do that color versus color. I would personally recommend a more of a dark L sound. A couple ways you could do that. I personally would say do it with the tip of your tongue pressed down against the bottom of your mouth. Color. They shame my color black. I'm just gonna say color. Just trying to keep the breath flowing. The goal is to almost treat the L like a vowel sound.
They shame my color black out of ignorance.
Out of ignorance. I think you have a chance to there too to just kind of play around with pitches and add some more contrast.
They shame my color black out of ignorance.
Out of ignorance. You could even take that of to a lower pitch. Out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. Just another option there.
And had it not been the blackness of the night,
And had not been for the blackness of the night, had it not been for the blackness of the night.
out of ignorance, and had it not been the blackness of the night,
Yeah, just a quick note. I think we dropped the four. You do need the four for that phrase. It's like it had not been for the blackness. So just don't forget that. But again, you also have an opportunity here to play with pitches a little bit more because right now it sounds slightly flat, not horribly so, but you could add more contrast. So, for instance, and had it not been for the black, and had it not been for the blackness. So, especially the for the, that's your opportunity to really go down in pitch if you want to add some contrast. Had it not been for the blackness of the night. And again, you could do the same thing on the of the for the blackness of the night, for the blackness of the night. And that's just again is going to add more contrast to what you're saying for the blackness of the night.
the dawn wouldn't have come.
The dawn wouldn't have come. And then we get our horse.
عنترة بن شداد.
I cannot comment on the Arabic. It sounds it sounds like perfect Arabic. Good job. Very, very proud of you. Okay, I'm just gonna play it one more time through to see if anything else stands out to me in terms of feedback.
My people will remember me if the horses come.
Just a quick note. So what we're talking about with pitches towards the end of that section, you're doing it right there. If the horses come, you can hear how low the pitch goes on this ziz on horses. Horses come.
Horses come.
You hear that? Horses come. So that is playing around some of those lower pitches. So I just want to hit those same lower pitches you're doing there in those other places in this dialogue.
And in the dark night, the full moon is missing.
I like how you're saying full moon. Very open. All sound on full. Very open. Ooh sound on moon. Those can be tricky words. I like what you did.
They shame my color black out of ignorance. And had it not been the blackness of the night, the dawn wouldn't have come.
Okay, those are my main thoughts for you there, Shok. Let me know if anything is not clear about that, but we greatly appreciated what you've done. So thank you. I see Emmanuel has a couple of quick questions here, so do you want to address those? What are Emmanuel's questions? Question. Words. Attitude. Fortitude. The last T is a true T. Attitude. Fortitude. Yes, in general, for those words, you want to pronounce those last T's on so the T's on tude as regular T sounds. Fortitude, attitude. Yeah, so tudes. You want to keep the T sound. That's going to be true for most words with tude. Good question, Emmanuel. Good questions, sir. Okay. If you guys have any questions for me about pronunciation in English, what we just heard, what we have not heard yet, about life, about relationships, sometimes we help people, guys. Sometimes we actually help people. You can post them in the comments. Be happy to try to help you out. If you want to try to help me out, here are some things that you can do. Like what you're hearing, let us know by liking and subscribing. And yes, my mug is broken. I don't know if you guys can tell. So we have some merch, but the handle breaks sometimes. If you hit it against the counter too hard, as I should not have done. Okay. Share my screen things. One file down. Couple more to go. Let me see who's next here. Going to share my screen once more. You guys will be able to hear what I hear, see what I see. And if, again, you want to send in your own pronunciation file, you can take a look again at the video description or in the chat box. I posted a link that you can go to if you want to get some thoughts on your own speech, because we want to help you out. Okay. Couple things here. R.I.P. Yes, it was a very tragic day when we lost our good friend coffee mug handle. It was a sad day. Edward is jumping into a question. Edward asks, "What is the American English pronunciation of buoy?" It's buoy. It's ooey. Ooey. Just going from a vowel to a vowel. Ooey. Buoy. Just a note. Thank you for asking, Edward. And we have just another nice hello. Hello to Jeff and everyone from Aisha. Good to see you. If you want to send us some audio files, there is still time. Just like we're going to take a look at this one. Yes, as Emmanuel says, you will be in our hearts forever. To my coffee mug. The mug is still good, to be fair. It holds water like a boss. It's just need to hold it. Give it like a firm hug with your hand, a hand hug. Let's take a listen to this next file here.
Actually know if validate chat sales. I don't actually know if validate chat sales. It seems like the type of place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap and then actually. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale constantly. Like the internet.
Okay. I think we get a little mushy here. I'm not going to lie, Manuel. I think we need a little bit more contrast in a couple places. I do like that you're keeping the flow, you're keeping the breath, which is good. We just need to add a little bit more contrast, and I think we'll be in a good spot. Edward makes a note that if we want to speak British English, buoy is pronounced like boy. Fascinating. I was not aware of that. Okay, let's get the text for this file, because I think that might be helpful, so I can give you some better guidance on word choice. And you can see we don't have a ton of files today, so if you want to send in a file, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, I'll have to look at your file next week or in the future. But why look at something in the future when you can do it in the present? It's my challenge for you. Okay, I found my mouse. I think it was this file. Let's listen to this again. Let's see what's happening. Why are some things a little bit tricky to hear?
I don't actually know if validate chat sales.
Okay. Oh wow. I don't actually know. So that part has enough contrast. That part is okay. I don't have an issue with that.
I don't actually know if.
I think it's a pretty natural way. I don't actually know. I think you'll hear native speakers talking very similarly to that. So I don't have an issue there.
I don't actually know if validate chat sales.
Value Village does not have enough contrast. So if I didn't have the text here, that would take me a minute to understand.
Oh, if validate chat
Value
sales.
Village has sales. Value Village. It's the Value Village part. That is the place where we don't have enough contrast. Circuit City, Value Village. Most likely, I think, let's just talk about stress here. So do you stress value or do you stress village? That becomes the question.
Question.
Which word are you actually going to stress? In this case, I'm thinking of like similar names, like it's really tricky. Like I'm thinking the closest one I can think of is like Circuit City, which is a now defunct electronics store. There's what are some other ones? There's like Pizza Villa, which is another one. Um, so in those cases, you're stressing the second word. But then there's other examples too. You know, like there's Foot Locker, but that's more of an actual compound now. So maybe that's why it's on foot. Best Buy, you stress buy. So I think in this case, with this word, and it's always tricky with names. There's always flexibility, but I personally, in this case, I would probably stress village. I don't know if Value Village has sales. I don't know if Value Village. So I would probably stress village in that case. I think that's going to give you a more natural sound. I don't know if Value Village, like a Value Village. I don't know if Value Village. I don't know if Value Village. I don't know if Value Village. Something like that. I think it'll give you a more natural rhythm, add more contrast to make that a little easier to understand. See, Edward asks us a great question too in relation to stress. That's what I'm talking about now. They ask us which element is stressed in Silicon Valley. You stress Valley. Silicon Valley, you stress Valley. It's like San Jose, things like that. In the US. Okay, I don't know. I don't actually know if Value Village has sales. But the other thing too is that Value Village has is probably gonna be your stress though after Village.
I don't actually know if Value Village has sales.
Has sales? I don't know if Value Village. I don't actually know if Value Village has sales. You're kind of stressing sales. I would personally probably stress has.
Or if Value Village has sales.
Like I don't actually know if Value Village has sales, but especially because like the implied context. The implied context is that someone asks. It feels like someone asks like, "Hey, does this place have sales?" And you're like, "I don't actually know if they have sales," or something like that. So that's why I think has is a more natural stress here. Um, just based on the wording.
I don't actually know if Value Village has sales.
Value Village. I don't actually know if Value Village. Another thing that might help too is a rising intonation. Village, Value Village has sales. I think that pattern would help a lot. Value Village has sales. I don't actually know if Value Village has sales. Value Village has sales. Value Village has sales. Value Village has sales. I don't actually know if Value Village has sales. So those little pattern things, I think, will make that a little easier to say. Emmanuel does make the note that Value Village was a bit difficult to pronounce. I get that. The V's, the dark L sounds, the short I's, the oo in value. There's a lot of tricky sounds in there. Value Village has sales. We'll keep moving along.
Village has sales. It seems like a title place that probably doesn't and just
We got stuck on the pitch. It seems like so that part sounded good, but then after seems we kind of fall apart a little bit.
probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap and then actually seems like a title place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. It seems like a title place that probably doesn't.
Do you hear that? It seems like, and then we get stuck. It seems like it's like all the pitches just kind of hit you at the same note, which make it real hard to separate and get an idea of what we're targeting. So I think that's a potential issue here. So I would really try to add a little bit more contrast on that part. It seems like the type of place that doesn't. Oh god, just a lot happening in that part.
It seems like a title place that probably doesn't.
It seems like the type. It seems like the type of place that probably doesn't. It seems like the type of place that probably doesn't. You need to go down. Probably doesn't. You need to go lower, especially on doesn't. That would help out a
Like a
lot.
title place that probably doesn't and
Probably doesn't. that probably doesn't. Like, I would just go low there. That's going to help a lot.
Seems like a type of place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. And
It seems like the type of place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. So like maybe ending the thought group there and then sending your next thought group a little higher in pitch. That probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. See, it seems like the type of place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. So again, just notice what the pitch does by adding more contrast there. It becomes a lot easier to understand. A lot easier.
claims to be cheap, and then actually, or
This claims to be cheap. This claims to be cheap.
it doesn't and just claims to be cheap.
It just claims to be cheap. You could. That's a good part to even send higher. Seems like the type of place that probably doesn't and just claims to be cheap. Also, watch out for the placement on cheap. Not chi. It's more chi. Just a little more breath coming through. Claims to be cheap.
Doesn't and just claims to be cheap, and then actually,
Um, and then actually, that just claims to be cheap, and then actually, I would drag that out. Like if that sounds like a sentence that you're not really finishing. You're just kind of trailing off. So I would probably have kind of that rising intonation, and then actually, it just claims to be cheap, and then actually, like kind of trailing off like that, and then actually, and then just kind of the breath keep flowing a little bit. Again, just adding some contrast there, I think would be really, really helpful. I lost my share. Give me 1 second. My cord's going crazy. Push. Which one do I need to go to the right spot? Sorry, guys. My cord's being finicky today. That's why we start a little bit late. Finicky cord. We got a finicky cord. If you don't know what finicky is, it's a good English word for you. Finicky means like it's not functioning right. It's doing some crazy things on its own a little bit. It's finicky.
and then actually, or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims.
I would say place too. You can hear on that L causing the placement to jump up place versus place, trying to open up a little bit more on place. Maybe it's the kind of place.
Or maybe it's the type of place that claims.
You can hear that place versus place. Trying to lower the placement on that A sound after the L.
Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale constantly.
Everything's on sale constantly. Edward is also asking a question in relation to this. They're asking, shouldn't correct word constantly on sale or on sale constantly? Depends what you want to emphasize. It's constantly on sale. It's on sale constantly. To me, when you put the constantly after sale, it sounds a lot more emphatic. You'll hear both. Both of them I'm okay with. Okay, just a note. The chord's being funny again. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'm going to try to sort out this chord. In the meantime, give me 1 second. In case you're just joining us and you're like, what is this man doing? Who is this guy? My name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath, which is one of the 4 key sounds in American English pronunciation, or one of the 4 key elements of American English pronunciation. And we're looking at pronunciation files that you send us, hopefully, so my cord can keep things going. It's the joys of live streams. And so basically, you can send us pronunciation files. We take a look at them and give you some suggestions and things like that to help you out and get some ideas on things to do. Let's switch things up. All right, I think I have things situated. If you look again at the video description, or also just at our in the chat box earlier, I have a link where you can actually send in your own pronunciation files in case you're interested in getting some feedback for yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Let's take a look again at this file. Hopefully things are situated now. Okay, we're going to try again. Not going to touch anything. Look, my hands are not touching a thing. We're going to hope it stays put.
Actually. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale.
Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale. I think adding a stress on everything here would again add a lot of clarity to what you're saying.
and actually. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale
Because everything, the pitches are too similar. It's the kind of place that claims everything's on sale constantly. Kind of place that claims everything's on sale. Like, that's not to say that you're not moving your pitch at all. Like, there is some movement, but the problem is it's not enough, and it ends up sounding a little bit. It's a little bit too flat, and it takes a little bit too much effort for your listener.
claims to be cheap and actually. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale constantly, actually. Or maybe it's the type of place that claims everything's on sale constantly.
Or maybe it's the kind of place that claims everything's on sale constantly. So just kind of playing around with your stresses can be helpful. Another thing you could play around with too that we mentioned, I think last stream, but also in Mission English, is we talked about the importance of contrast not only through pitch, but also contrast through speed. So for instance, you have some opportunities here where you can actually play around with the speed of some of the words that claims everything's on sale constantly. So notice what I did there. I lengthened everything. That claims everything's on sale constantly. So that's another thing that you can do just to kind of experiment with trying to add more contrast to this. Because I think you have the breath, I think you have the placement, but I think that would add a lot to make this a little bit more dynamic.
On sale constantly.
Also on constantly, I feel like I'm hearing versus
On
constantly.
sale constantly.
Do that constantly versus constantly. I would use an ah sound. Can you hear the difference between all and ah? Trying to again lower the placement. Ah, constantly. Just a note.
Like the internet.
What is that last part? Like the internet. Like the internet. Like the internet. That last part a little bit tricky.
Like the
Like the
internet.
internet. Like the internet. Like the internet. I would try to add more contrast in internet. Go higher on in and then drop more internet. Like the internet. Like the internet. Going a higher pitch on in and a lower pitch on net will help a lot. Like the internet. Like the internet. Something like that. Thank you to Emmanuel for sending us that file. If you have some questions for me about anything we just discussed there, be sure to let me know. We appreciate you. Thank you for saying you believe in the chord. Chord. Yes, chord, you. We believe in you. We trust you. We need your help. Okay, I got two more files for you, but just a quick note: if you already are fine, ooh, that audio is really deep. I like the audio. Audio is already really deep. So just a quick note: if you're already getting some value from the things that we are doing today, right now, in the Schwa Mill here, that's great. But again, something that we mentioned earlier is that the sad truth is that studying pronunciation for or like listening to feedback on your file for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever on a Saturday, it's it's just not going to be enough to really get significant improvement in your pronunciation to achieve your speaking goals. So I do have some good news. The good news is that we have lots of opportunities that you can take advantage of to start getting a more natural sound more consistently. And they involve one of our premier programs, which is called Mission English. A lot of people, one, they're taking classes with teachers that are more focused on things like pronunciation, not really paying attention to concepts that are actually going to have an impact on your pronunciation, for instance, like your breath, like your placement, things like that. The other thing is that a lot of times you're signing up for classes and some people have academies and things like that online, but then you don't actually get to work with the teacher that you thought, or if you do get to work with them, it's like once a week or something like that. So what I've done is I've created a program called Mission English. In Mission English, what we do is we meet Monday through Friday, 2 times a day for a maximum of about 40 classes and a minimum of about 30 classes a month. And one of the best parts is you pay a single price for the month and you get access to all the classes. This is our current price point. You're not going to find a better value for studying pronunciation out there. It's a small group class. It's held on Facebook. And basically, it's you, it's me, and maybe two, three other students maximum. And we're doing pronunciation exercises together to target things that are related to, again, placement, breath, pitch, vowel sounds, linking, stress, copying native speakers, a lot of things that we talk about today, but in a more interactive setting. And we do that consistently Monday through Friday, twice a day. So we are hitting different time zones and things like that. This is the current schedule that we're using. Okay, so you can see we're meeting twice a day. Each of these times is for 30 minutes. So you can see Monday, we're back at it on Monday. We're going to be at 1:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. New York time. These are all New York time. Tuesday, 9:30 and 1:30 p.m. Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. Thursday, we have conversation class, and then we meet at 8 p.m. And then Friday, we meet at 9:30 and 1:30 again. We also have some writing classes. So if you're studying for IELTS or you're working on some business stuff like emails and things like that, you want to get some checks. That's what our writing classes are for. We do at least 5 of those a month. And again, it's just consistent practice. All of these classes are saved so that way you can rewatch as often as you need. And in fact, we're approaching 340, 350 lessons. We almost have a class for every day of the week coming up on that soon. All the classes are recorded. So if you join today, that means you already get access to our whole catalog of classes. They're all there waiting for you to study. The last thing I want to say is that a lot of times students are afraid because they want one-on-one classes. They're like, group classes aren't for me. It's just not for me, not my style. But the problem is they've never even tried a group pronunciation class with us before. And the other issue is that if you just want one-on-one classes, you might not be able to meet with me every single day of the week. And so it can slow down your growth a lot. So I really encourage you to study in a group class setting, because one of the things that happens in a one-on-one class is you take the class and I give you feedback, and Emmanuel can attest to this. You hear what I'm saying in class and you're like, okay, I understand. But so then you try doing exercise with me and I say, no, we need to make an adjustment. And you want to be polite in class. You say, okay, fine, I'll make that adjustment. But in your head, you're thinking, Jeff, I said the same thing you did. I said it the same exact way. I just don't hear a difference. But then in the replay, you watch it again and you start hearing those differences. Like, no, I didn't sound like that. I said this. Wow, there's such a big difference. That's just another value that we give you with our replays and things like that. So I do hope if you're serious about pronunciation, go to fluentamerican.com, take a look again at our Mission English offering. I think it's something that is going to completely change your approach to pronunciation. It's nice just kind of being being with other people with similar goals to you. You can learn a lot from each other because the questions that other students have an impact on your own pronunciation as well. So we'd love to see you there. If you have questions about it, you can let me know, or you can post them in chat. We have some members here. Emmanuel is concerned about my health. Thank you, Emmanuel. Allergies still giving you a headache? Yeah, they're not. My sinuses aren't great. They're a bit better. We couldn't have a writing class this morning because my allergies and my sinuses were not cooperating. That's definitely true. Last night was a little tricky. But we're here. We're fighting. Because that's what we do. We fight. I got checking to see our file situation. See, we have one other file added on, which is cool. Okay, so we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let's take a look at our original batch. Okay. Man, saying I get a bit lost sometimes without the replays. That is super fair. You just don't know what you sound like till you're here to hear yourself. That's why we do the recordings. What do we have here?
So one of my friends asked me recently, solve that problem? And I said, yeah, sure, I can. But do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer.
Okay. Thanks, Sycamore, for sending this file. Okay. Edward also wants to commiserate, saying constantly suffer from allergies. I feel that. I feel that very, very, very deeply. Okay, let's get the text for this really quick. This one. Yes. Okay, let's take a look at what was actually said here. Give me one moment. So my friends asked me, "Can you help me solve that problem?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I can." You know what the real issue is? I don't think he had an answer.
So one of my friends asked me recently.
So one of my friends asked me recently, um,
So one of my friends asked me recently, can you help me solve that problem?
I think this sounds fine. If I wanted to make this sound again a little bit more conversational, Sycamore, I feel like if you look at all of your pronunciation files, they all kind of have the same kind of flow, the same intro, especially like the first sentence. Um, which makes sense. I mean, you're telling stories a lot of times about like, oh, so my wife said, or my friend said, or this happened.
So one of my friends asked me recently.
I think something that's going to help here again is contrast. The word recently is your best opportunity for that. Um, one of the things I'm going to say is try to extend your final e sound because it gets a little chopped off. It also gets slightly reduced. I feel like it's turning into like le
My friends asked me recently, can
recently, recently. So it doesn't turn into le, but it turns to le, but it's a little bit tight. So I'll try to extend the breath. The other thing that's going to be helpful too is playing around with the pitch and intonation on that. So one of my friends asked me recently, Lee, like, do you hear what I'm doing, Lee? One of my friends asked me recently. One of my friends asked me recently. One of the things that we just see with American English is the intonation patterns are a lot of times not so straightforward. A lot of times there's some movement involved with how people are using intonation. So instead of just saying Lee. A lot of times it gets a little bit more nuanced, like Lee. So like it goes down and it goes up. Like one of my friends asked me recently. One of my friends asked me recently. So then just kind of adding that movement makes it a lot more dynamic, adds more contrast to what you're saying as well, which is going to help you give you a more natural sound. So I think that's the one of the first things I would recommend. One of my friends asked me recently. One of my friends asked me recently.
recently, can you help me solve that problem?
You want me to solve that problem? Solve that problem.
Recently, can you help me solve that problem?
Help me solve that problem. Solve that problem. A little bit choppy there. Solve that problem. I think in terms of the pitch and things like that. Saying, "Hey, is the stream a little laggy?" It could be a little laggy. I'm sorry if that's the case. But hopefully the audio is coming through okay, even if the video is a little bit choppy. Can you help me solve that problem?
Can you help me solve that problem?
The pitches there just got too identical. Solve that problem. Solve that problem. Can you help me solve that problem? Solve that problem? I probably would have stressed solve and gone higher in pitch. Can you help me solve that problem? Can you help me solve that problem? So I would have gone higher in pitch on solve, but kept the rising intonation on problem. Like solve that problem. Can you help me solve that problem? Can you help me solve that problem? Can you help me solve that problem? And I think that would have been pretty helpful. Can you help me solve that problem? Other thing I would say too in this is let me hear it again.
Can you help me solve that problem?
Yeah, there's just not enough pitch contrast there.
Solve that problem? And I said, yeah, sure, I can.
And I said, yeah, sure, I can. I would have gone lower on can, just add more contrast.
And I said, yeah, sure, I can.
I like your reduction, and I said, yeah, I like that reduction a lot. Very natural sounding.
Problem? And I said, yeah, sure, I can.
And I said, yeah, sure, I can. You could go lower pitch again on can.
And I said, yeah, sure, I can. But do you know what the real issue is?
Do you know what I like that, but do you know what we get a little tight in terms of placement and breath on real issue.
But do you know what the real issue is?
Real issue. Another way you can kind of tell the placement gets a little high is because of issue, like real issue, real issue. So gonna that a short I sound on ish is becoming ish, like more of an e sound. It's like real issue. I'll just try to practice that real issue. Do you know what the real issue? You know what the real issue is? Also, just know how the pitch pattern is going to be real issue. It's like down, 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 down. Do you know what the real issue is?
but do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer.
Similar there with think. Similar, I think you're using more of an E sound versus a short I. I don't think, and I don't think,
Do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer.
and I don't think he had an answer. I'd also try to go lower in pitch on the answer at the end.
Do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer.
Answer. I don't think he had an answer. And I don't think I'd maybe even do two thought groups there. I don't think, and then I would drop in pitch on the second thought group. I don't think, then down. He had an answer. I don't think he had an answer. I don't think he had an answer. Because one of the things that we constantly see when you have thought groups in American English. So if we had that phrase like, I don't think, see, I don't think, that's our first thought group. I don't think, and then our next thought group, he had an answer. Because when you move from one thought group to the next in American English, the general movement is you want to change the pitch. So I don't think first thought group slightly higher pitch, he had an answer. Second thought group lower pitch. You can do the opposite too. You can start high, I don't think, and then you go higher. He had an answer. I don't think he had an answer. I don't think he had an answer. Doesn't matter which one you use so much. Depends on context. But it just is really important that you want to have some sort of movement and switch because that's going to help you achieve a much more natural sound. I don't think he had an answer. Or I don't think he had an answer. Cool. So I'm going to play that one more time. Then I'm going to read through it. I always forget to read through it. I know that would help Sycamore. So I'm going to play this and then I'll show you how I would say the whole thing.
So one of my friends asked me recently, can you help me solve that problem? And I said, yeah, sure, I can. But do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer.
Okay, so the way I would read this would be so one of my friends asked me recently, can you help me solve that problem? And I say, yeah, sure, I can, but do you know what the real issue is? And I don't think he had an answer. And I don't think he had an answer. Something like that. That's personally how I would do it. Thank you to Sycamore for sending that file. Greatly appreciate it. This is our last original file. And I'll take a look. Okay. I do need a quick water break. But if you want to help me out, if you're getting some value from what we're doing today, you can do this. Like what you're hearing? Let us know by liking and subscribing. Coffee mug still battling. Still trying to do the thing, which I appreciate. Okay, let's take a look. Last original file. It's not a long one. Take a quick listen to this.
When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Okay.
When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Okay. I think some good stuff here. I like the low pitches and things. I do think we have some opportunities here. Okay, so we don't have the text, but that's cool. I think I understood it okay.
When you're negotiating.
Okay, so when you're, I like the movement on the when you're good. You can even go lower in pitch on the your if you wanted, but I think things are sounding pretty open in link, which is great. When you're
negotiating.
It almost feels like we want to stress the first syllable, but then we change and stress the third or the second syllable. When you're negotiate, like, so the stress on negotiate is on the second syllable. Okay, so go lower in pitch on ne, when you're ne, and then on go higher when you're negotiating. When you're negotiating. Okay, so that's just kind of something to play with on that when you're negotiating. Okay, so I would try to when you're negotiating. Also note the kind of the pattern on negotiating. It's like negotiating. It's like when you're negotiating. So just kind of playing around with that, I think would be really helpful. When you're negotiating, I'd also have that rising intonation on negotiating. When you're negotiating,
You're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
you need to leave yourself some wiggle room. Interesting. Okay. So what I would say for that part is your other stress is going to be wiggle. You need to leave yourself some wiggle room. So I would raise your pitch on wiggle. Wiggle room. It's like up, down, down. Wiggle room. So again, you have to have two thought groups. When you're negotiating, then your next thought group, like we talked about earlier, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room. You need to leave yourself some wiggle room. So first thought group higher. When you're negotiating, then you go down. You need to leave yourself some wiggle room. When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room. When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Some wiggle room. So the thing is that it's the pitches on that second half are just too similar. So higher pitch on wi on your short I. You need to leave yourself some wiggle
To
room.
leave yourself some wiggle room. You need to leave yourself some wiggle room. Negotiating, you need to leave yourself some. You need to leave yourself some wiggle room.
Yeah, those are gonna be my big suggestions. There is just kind of stress pitch things between your thought groups. I think doing that's gonna have a pretty big impact on your sound. In all honesty, that's a short file. That's pretty much what I got. When you're negotiating, you need to leave yourself some wiggle room. Just doing that, I think, will give you an even more natural sound. But overall, I thought this sounded pretty good. Thanks to Marcos. Greatly appreciate you sending in your audio files. Greatly appreciate it. Okay, checking in some things really quick. I know we got another file. I just want to take a look at that. And if you want to send in your own pronunciation file, there is still time to do that, which is exciting. If you go to the video description, you can see a link to a Google Doc. You can also find it way early on in the chat where we link it so that way you can send in your audio. And a reminder that we use that same link every single Saturday. I usually clear it out on Friday, but maybe it's like a Tuesday and you're like, I want to send in a pronunciation file, but Jeff's not going to look at it until Saturday. Well, just like put it down towards the bottom, or you can even make a note like, hey, save this for the next class. And that way I'll see it. And then we can give you in on the next stream. So we're taking in pronunciation files all week long. Again, I clear it out on Friday, but I'll be happy to save files if you're seeing this sometime in the future. Hello from the past. And then we'll give you some suggestions on the next live stream. Shok saying some kind comments. Oh, Shok. I said I wouldn't cry today. Thank you so much for the kind words. Shok, hoping that I feel well soon. It's allergy season. It's already started. It's been so like cool. It's probably been like 20 to like 23 degrees here like the last, I don't know, maybe like the last week or two. Like unusually cool weather for the summer in August, especially like in the mornings. Manuel says they want to get themselves a handless Schwa Mill mug. Yes, you do. It's going to change your life. Change your life. Okay. This is the file we just listened to. Okay. So, checking again the document, I see one additional file. Cool. There is still time to send in the file, but you are very quickly running out. We're going to take a look at this one here. Give me a moment and I will share my screen for one last lap, potentially. Manuel saying, oh my gosh. Give me a sec just to load this. Emmanuel saying, over in Romania, what's happening in Europe? Let's take a look. 35 degrees there. You see, that's like typically what I would expect for August. Like here, sometimes like 33, 34. When we were down in Texas, it would get to like 40, 41, sometimes like 43. It would get pretty hot. So I feel that. San Antonio also had like 0% humidity though. So like the sun beats you in the face, but at least you don't like sweat a ton. Okay. Besides that, we have our text. Gonna take a quick look at this.
When you truly master something and continually get better at it, people can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you.
Okay, thank you for sending us your audio. We greatly appreciate you. And I have some thoughts that hopefully will be helpful. Oh, Edward making a note that it is, oh my gosh, 43 degrees Celsius. There it is. There it is. Super hot. Let's get it. Edward is staying inside somewhere, unless he's like watching the live stream somewhere in like the desert. Okay, let's take a look.
When you truly master something and continually get better at it, people can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you.
Okay. So one thing we've done a lot today, we've talked a lot about pitch, navigating thought groups and things like that, making sure that when you switch a thought group, you're switching the pitch pattern that you're using. This audio right here is actually doing a great job of every time there's a new thought group, shifting things.
When you truly master something and continually get better at it,
When you truly master something and you continually, so it does kind of, raises just a little bit on that second thought group. Could even do more if you wanted, but it does move up a little bit.
people can't compete with you.
People can't compete with you. And then we get that drop down. Continue to get better at it. People can't compete with you. Good movement.
Especially if your work feels like play to you.
Especially, you're kind of putting that in its own thought group and going up. It's like people can't compete with you. Especially, and then you drop again if your work feels like play to you.
Especially if your work feels like play to you.
Good. So I like the general movements you're doing between your thought groups. That rise, that fall, that rise, that fall. In terms of the pitch level for the thought group, that is really good stuff. You're doing the thing. The next step is going to be related to placement and breath, trying to lower the placement a little bit because things right now are a little bit tight. We're not allowing a lot of air to make it through our throat. This is especially because of some of our consonant sounds I'm going to identify for you.
When you truly master something,
It's your R sound and your L sound, I think. Like you can hear it on truly,
you truly master
truly. You hear it truly. It sounds to me like you're making your L sound with the higher tongue position, like your L is probably touching your top palate or your top front tooth, or maybe both. I would encourage you, hey, can you say truly with the tip of your tongue down? When you truly, when you truly, and one of the reasons why I really advocate for lower tongue positions is that it's going to weaken your consonant sounds. It's going to feel strange because you're probably not used to it. But what it's going to do is it's going to open up your airways more. So that way more breath is passing through. And that's going to allow you to kind of link things more and assist with your fluency. It's also going to help lower your placement as you do that. So try to keep that tongue down on, for instance, truly, like when you truly, and then very similar notes when you say master.
when you truly master something,
Master something.
truly master something,
Master some. Master some versus master. Treat the R like a vowel sound as well with that lower position. Master. When you truly master
truly
something,
master something,
I would play around with stress. So you're stressing something right now, but I would stress master. Like when you truly master something, when you truly master something, because something isn't really a word that has a lot of meaning to it, but master is a very strong word. So I would personally stress master instead. When you truly master something,
you truly master something and continually get better at it,
I wouldn't stress continuing. I would go low pitch and you continually get better at it. When you truly master something and you continually get better at it, I would just stress better. So this is another thing I say for a lot of students is I think a lot of times people who learn English or uh, it's not necessarily their first language. But I think a very common thing that happens is we add a lot of stressed words. But the problem with that is it kind of makes our sentence feel choppier. So by removing some of those stresses, we can actually achieve a more natural sound. In this case, I would take the stress off of continually.
continually get better at it,
Continuing to get better at it. I'd hear better at it.
continually get better at it.
Better at it. Better at it. Um, we're not really giving our vowels a chance to breathe here. So I would that phrase better at it, I would try to just say the vowels really quick. It's like better at it, better at it. It's like at it. Just do the vowels. At it. And then add the consonants back. Better at it. Slow and then alternate between that a couple times. Like at it, at it, better at it, at it, better at it. By doing that's all sort of alternating, and I would probably do it 3 or 4 times. Try never to pause. Don't say no, no, no. We need to link everything and try to do it 3 or 4 times because that's going to give us we're going to be able to flow more. At it, better at it, at it, better at it, at it, better at it. Try to do it just like I did without any breaks or pauses because we're trying to open up those vowel sounds more.
Continually get better at it. People can't compete with you.
People can't compete.
People can't compete with you.
It almost feels like we have like a rolled L sound.
People can't compete.
People can't versus like people can't. And again, American English, we can't roll R's. We definitely can't roll L's either. It also kind of suggests that the placement is going high. This could also just be like an audio thing with the microphone or something, to be fair. But just try to make sure when you're saying people, this goes back to what I said for truly, might be helpful to keep tip of your tongue down on the L. People can't compete with you.
People can't compete with you.
Compete with you. I would also similar thing to what we did with get better at it. I would do a similar thing with compete with you, because I think your consonants again are a little heavy. It's like e ooh. Those are your vowel sounds. E compete with you. Compete with you. It don't feel like you need to when you're doing those sort of exercises that needs to be perfect. The goal is just trying to keep the breath flowing. It's not necessarily about getting the perfect sound. Compete with you.
People can't compete with you, especially if your
Especially, same thing about that dark L sound. So I would keep the tongue down. Because especially,
work feels like play to you.
and also feels.
Can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you.
Feels like play to you. So again, my biggest comment for this file is probably just when you're doing those L's, experiment with doing it with the tip of your tongue down, because I think that's going to open up everything. When you truly master something, you continue to get better at it. People can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you. I'll be honest, when I just said that sentence, and this is my challenge for everyone here, not just for our file. This is for everyone. Try to say this entire sentence with the tip of your tongue. That's the tip of your tongue, the very front of your tongue. Try to say it down, tip of your tongue down against the bottom of your mouth. I'm going to say this whole sentence with tip of my tongue down here against the bottom of my mouth. Okay. When you truly master something and you continually get better at it, people can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you. Especially if your work feels like play to you. I'm going to read that again just so you can really see that my tongue is not going high. So I don't want people being like, but Jeff, you covered it with the text. You can't even see your tongue. So I'm going to read this again with my tongue down, tip my tongue down. Okay, just to show that mouth position is not the important thing. It's about the breath and the airflow. Keep that tongue down to keep things flowing. When you truly master something and you continually get better at it, people can't compete with you, especially if your work feels like play to you. Okay, so again, that was to tip my tongue down against my bottom of my mouth the entire time. So I would encourage you to try that out. See if it makes an impact on your sound. Gives you something that feels a little bit more natural, a little bit more breath and flow. All right, guys. I just want to give a quick reminder. So that has been our episode of Schwa Mill. I'm checking our file. I'm not seeing any new ones, but if you are interested in sending us pronunciation files for the next live stream, what you can do is you can put them in our Google Doc, which again you can find in the video description or earlier in the chat. We have to take a look at them next week. Again, the other reality though is that what we do today is not enough to make the changes that you're probably seeking in your pronunciation. It's a start. We start building awareness, which is important, but it's not enough on its own. We have, though, created a program that is going to help you advance to your goals much more quickly. It's called Mission English. We meet at all of these times, Monday through Friday. Each of these classes is a half hour long. These are New York time. So on Monday, again, we're meeting at 1:30 p.m. and then 8 p.m. at night, New York. Tuesday, we're meeting at 9:30 a.m., then 1:30 p.m. And, we meet at all these different times to try to make sure we hit some of your time zones. So hopefully there's at least one time that kind of works well for you. All of the classes are saved. So that way you can hear the exercises that we do. You can practice them again in the future. If you are a type of person that's like, nah, I only want to do one-on-one classes, I really, in all honesty, you're really missing out because group classes can actually oftentimes do teach you way more because you're going to hear my corrections for other people. You're going to hear different pronunciations and you're going to hear my suggestions. And those suggestions very often apply to you too. I know we all have different accents, but the reality is that most of us here are having very similar issues with pitch, similar issues with placement, similar issues with breath, and very similar issues with not getting our vowel sounds long enough in our speech. You can find out more about that approach on our website too, at fluentamerican.com, our video course. Okay. I should make a note. I got to work on dark L and R sounds. Yeah, just trying to get more air flowing. Don't let the consonants block us. I like what you're doing with your thought groups between pitches. Just try and get that airflow a little bit more consistent too. Other things from Edward. Continuously. No, I'm not gonna. I think it's just a spelling thing. It's one of those first two, so it's not traditionally spelled with an E. Good question, Edward. Again, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath, one of those 4 key concepts we just mentioned. If you have questions for me that I can answer in a future video or stream, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for turning to us. I understand with American English pronunciation, there are literally millions of resources out there. So the fact you spent a little bit of your Saturday with me here is very, very meaningful. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Have a good night. Good afternoon. And you all take care.